The Toyota Hilux Champ was released recently, and this model took the world by storm because it offers so much for very little money. This model is already sold in some Asian countries, and it's highly discussed that the model will become available in the US. There are thousands of people who require the introduction of this model in the US market, and it's up to Toyota to make the call whether or not this will be the case. Although there are many pros of this model, there are still some cons, so stay with us while we cover the Toyota Hilux Champ, an honest assessment of its pros and cons. Now, let's start with the pros of the Toyota Hilux Champ and learn more about the positives of this model. Number 5. Strong ladder frame. One of the main selling points of the Toyota Hilux Champ is the frame on which this model is built. Although this model, from an exterior standpoint, does not resemble a Hilux, the core of the model, which is the frame, is completely borrowed from the regular Toyota Hilux. This platform is known as the IMV platform. It was designed by Toyota Daihatsu Engineering and Manufacturing in a collaboration between Japanese and Australian engineering teams. This ladder frame uses leaf spring suspension in the rear, as well as the same rear axle as the Hilux. But although the model has the same frame, the front end is a lot shorter compared to the standard Hilux, in order to allow more room in the rear for a larger bed. What is interesting about the Hilux Champ is that this model comes as a chassis cab. So what is a chassis cab? Well, this is a special type of cab that allows you to customize your truck in the best way you can. This is a truck that comes with the cab and the rear is fully customizable. You can take this truck to a company that is doing conversions and they can turn it into an ice cream truck, an ambulance, a mobile coffee shop, or anything you like. With the Hilux Champ, options are endless. Number 4. Great towing and payload capacity. Towing and payload are crucial when it comes to buying a new pickup truck. A truck has to deliver excellent towing and payload performance in order to be considered a good purchase. Luckily for you, the Hilux Champ is definitely one of the best trucks that you can get for this purpose. This truck is not designed to be luxurious, but to be a very reliable workhorse. So when it comes to the towing capacity, the Hilux Champ can tow up to 2,500 kilograms. In pounds, this is about 5,000 pounds, which is very good for a truck of this size. But the area where this model shines is when it comes to the payload capacity. The payload capacity is the strongest aspect of the Hilux Champ. The Hilux Champ is a 1-ton truck. This means that it can take a payload of 1 ton, which is 2,200 pounds. Just for reference, this amount of payload you can only get with large trucks like the Ford F-250 or the Chevy Silverado HD. These trucks cost 4 times more than the Hilux Champ. If you want a cheaper truck, you will never get this much performance when it comes to payload. That's why this aspect is an easy win for the Hilux Champ by a great margin. If you want to get a proper truck for towing and payload, this is the model you need. Number 3. Utilitarian design. One thing people like in trucks is the ability to be used and abused without any repercussions. What do we mean by this? Well, let's say that you drove over a very narrow alley and you scratched your truck. If you have an expensive truck, this repair will cost you an arm and a leg. While with the Hilux Champ, this repair will be dirt cheap. This truck is meant to be used and abused on a daily basis. These trucks are meant for work and service, so you should never go easy on them. The interior is all about utilitarianism with rubber floor and plastic all around the cabin. You will never have to worry if your shoes are clean when you enter or if you scratch something inside. So you get the idea why the Hilux Champ is a real champ when it comes to truck duties and service. With this model, you get the utilitarianism you need from a truck and do not worry about damage or expensive repairs. Number 2. Irresistible price. One of the main things why the Toyota Hilux Champ is so popular abroad is because of its irresistible price. This model is dirt cheap. The base version starts at only $12,000. And considering what you get, this is definitely extremely cheap because in the US, for an equivalent midsize truck, you'll have to spend up to $30,000. So for this amount of cash, you can basically purchase 2 Hilux Champ models without any worries. This low price will definitely make this truck the go-to option for people who need a very cheap vehicle for their business. This will allow your business to grow since the purchase cost is so low, and you'll be able to afford to invest more and also earn more in the process. Number 1. Great reliability. When it comes to buying a new truck, reliability should be one of your top concerns. Reliability is key when it comes to having a vehicle that is meant for work. And we can tell you that the Hilux Champ is built like a tank. This model will work under any conditions. Reliability is so strong with the Hilux that there's barely a vehicle on this planet that can compete with it. We've seen these trucks being thrown out of buildings and rolled over, and they still work when you turn on the engine. Remember that this model under the skin is a regular Hilux, so you get all this reliability for a very low price, much cheaper than the standard Hilux. On top of that, the maintenance is also dirt cheap with the Toyota Hilux Champ. You can maintain this model at a relatively low cost. We covered the pros of the Toyota Hilux Champ. Now, let's take a look at the cons of this model. There are downsides to the Champ, and we need to cover them in depth. Number 3. Low engine power. The first con when it comes to the Toyota Hilux Champ is definitely the low amount of power that this model has. As you probably know, buyers in the US want to have a proper, high-performance model that delivers some hefty numbers. This is not the case with the Hilux Champ. This model does not have powerful powertrains that'll burn some rubber. With this model, you have the standard model, you only get a 2.0-liter engine that makes 137 horsepower. Then you have the more powerful 2.7-liter engine that makes up to 164 HP, and a turbo diesel that produces up to 148 horsepower. So if Toyota decides to introduce this model to the US market, they'll definitely have to add more power because customers will not particularly want to get a Hilux Champ. So the 2.4-liter turbo that is used on the current Toyota Tacoma would be a good option for this application. Number 2. Poor equipment level. Another downside of the Toyota Hilux Champ is the level of equipment that you get with this model. This model is lacking in all aspects. As we noted previously, this model is a utilitarian vehicle. This means that the Toyota Hilux Champ is not intended to be a luxury vehicle, so this is noticeable when you drive one of these models. The insulation level is extremely poor, and vibrations as well as noises from the outside are present inside the cabin, something that can be very stressful to deal with on a daily basis. The seats are the most basic seats that you can get with manual adjustments, and the level of adjustment is minimal, not comparable to any other mid-sized truck in the US market. On top of that, the choices of materials is very poor, with hard plastic everywhere and cloth seats. In this model, you don't get the treatment that you get with other models. Also, the level of technology is rather poor as well. You only get an infotainment system with a small screen, and you don't have many options. You can only control the stereo and maps. That's it. So, as you can see, the Hilux Champ is very poor in this area, and is definitely not up to the standards of the US market. Number 1. It is relatively unsafe. Another thing that should concern you when buying a Toyota Hilux Champ is the safety aspect. As we noted, this model is built on the same platform as the standard Hilux, but this model uses a different cab. This means that you have a different crash structure in the front, and the crash structure that is on the Hilux Champ is definitely not one of the best out there. The cabin is paper thin, and any serious impact will result in heavy damage, and this could be potentially fatal. Remember that this is a model built for the Asian markets, where most of the trucks look like the Champ. But in the US, most of the trucks and SUVs are very large, and you definitely don't want to have a head-on collision with these trucks while driving the Champ. So overall, this is probably one of the biggest downsides of this mid-sized truck that is a real deal breaker.